Hello, I'm Scott Swafford, executive producer of Granite Flats. A great many elements go into the making of a television series. There's the contribution from the art department, the writing staff, the camera and lighting crew, the editors and sound team. In some ways, the list seems endless. But all these areas of responsibility focus in on one thing: helping the actors perform to the best of their ability. Although the players may make it look easy, taking on a different identity and convincing others that character is real takes a lot more skill than one may realize. Let's meet some of the cast of Granite Flats as they introduce us to their on-screen personas.
I play Alice White, Beth's sister.
My character is sort of a mysterious kind of fellow.
Madeline was very straightforward. You know, she did everything her parents told her to do.
Lieutenant Frank Quincy is a troubled, disturbed individual.
June's progressed a lot. I'm really thrilled.
John Sanders is fairly stoic and more unemotional.
When he came to Colorado, he had no idea what he was going to find.
Well, I love playing Herschel because he's really on the path to redeeming himself.
I play Dr. Susan Andrews, who is part of a husband-wife team. We're working at the hospital in Granite Flats.
Well, Dr. Ronald Andrews is a kind of a befuddled doctor, scientist, not real comfortable with people.
I think Professor Hargraves is very impassioned about many aspects of life beyond the junior high school level. He hopes that they go through life seeing things more openly without prejudging.
I'm the outsider in Granite Flats. She's gotten out of prison. I was in prison for 12 years. So I kind of fly in to take care of Arthur.
Yet you excel at smart alegory.
Is that even a word?
Ask your English teacher.
Regina is a woman who is relatively progressive for her time. She certainly has a mind of her own.
Basically, Wallace has kind of developed from this troubled kind of bully with a horrible at-home life with his alcoholic father, and basically what kind of changed all that thing around was me meeting Regina, and she's kind of turned me into a nicer and nicer kid. In season 3, you just get to see Wallace, and he's nothing like a bully. We're good friends with a lot of people, and everything's changed for Wallace.
Her relationships with people have definitely changed, and her perspective over the world, from her parents to, you know, Timmy and Arthur, everything. And I think that, you know, she has a lot more passion for people now, and she is really growing. You know, she's learning poetry. You know, I think that she's really expanding within herself.
An actor's ability to transform themselves into a convincing character is based on a number of factors. There are probably as many different methods of creating these roles as there are performers. How they speak the lines, their facial expressions or emotions, subtle habits or bits of business that define their characters. All of these things congeal in the mind of the performer as they read and study the script. Here's how a few of the Granite Flats actors see their characters and the thought process that goes into bringing them to life.
You know, it's always more fun for actors to get to play something that's not completely black or white, you know, because in reality, there's a gray area in everyone's life. You know, people are, you know, you try to do the right thing all the time, and, you know, most of us shoot at about 70 to 80%. It's the 20% that gets interesting because that's where your character is built.
Frank Quincy has been kind of the punching bag on Granite Flats to some extent, and the pincushion and the guinea pig for all of the experiments and all of the hypnosis and a lot of things that occur in season 3 that are also what I would consider sort of dramatic heavy lifting. I'm thrilled that the producers and writers have the confidence that I can pull some of those scenes off. They're certainly not easy, but, you know, being surrounded by a group of professionals, cast, crew, everyone, the atmosphere of this show facilitates good performances, actually.
We're different, good and bad, etc., but basically we're just people, like anybody else, anywhere else.
I try to have as much gray area in my character that I can.
She lives in the gray area. She's not so black and white. She deals well with ambiguity, and she's independent. She's a free spirit.
Flawed characters are more interesting Any drama, you have flawed characters. Conflict is someone who's got flaws that they're working against something. Otherwise, there's nothing interesting to watch.
I really tried to put myself in her shoes, given her background, with the circumstances that are presented to me.
The decisions you make, in your life, in that gray area is what defines a character, I think, and that's what's interesting about Scotty. Things that are squeaky clean totally all the time, I fall asleep when I watch it. So you want as much sort of conflict as you can, I think.
If the audience doesn't relate to you on some sort of human level, it doesn't go anywhere, So I try to find something that they can say, yeah, I understand where that person's coming from. I may not be that person, but I recognize that quirkiness in myself.
I've played a lot of law enforcement in my career. For this character, I feel really blessed that he's got so much of a big backstory that leads him to being a cop. He's a very troubled person. He's recovering from what we would now call PTSD, and he's got problems with alcohol. He's a single dad. He's got all this rich life that he's trying desperately to get a handle on. So getting to play this character has meant a lot to me because I've been a single dad, I've had some tough patches in my life, and I have had to start over, reinvent, and come back stronger. And I feel that's exactly what Herschel's doing.
This is one of those things, as opportunities for me as an actor that just literally came out of the blue. I kind of like semi-retired to Palm Springs, California 5 years ago. And then I met this woman who wanted to be my manager. And she calls me one day and says, there's this show up in Utah, and it's called Granite Flats, and there are a couple of parts that haven't cast.
I read the script and saw so much possibility and such an interesting character, and I thought she was kind of funny. She says it like it is, and it reminded me of some of the old characters that I loved on TV as a little girl.
Granite Flats is set in the 60s. There's a part of a doctor, and then there's a part of a farmer who loses a sheep.
She's kind of a mix of Agnes Moorehead from Bewitched. You can kind of see that in my hair.
Farmer who loses a sheep, I don't think that's me.
Kitty from Gunsmoke. Flo from Alice.
Let me look at the doctor part. So, lo and behold, they were saying, well, get ready to go to Salt Lake. You've been cast as Dr. Whittison.
It has a message of righteousness and goodness that feels like the Waltons. So all these different styles, and it's like nothing else I've ever done, and I'm having a ball. It's been great.
I'm not generally a character actor, though I can do voices and accents and wear wigs and hats and create a role. But they started writing it, I think, just with me in mind. And I've pretty much just played myself in it, to be honest with you. And whatever John Christian Plummer and Scott Swafford and the others write, I memorize it, I stand in front of the camera, I put it out there, and it somehow becomes Lieutenant Frank Quincy. I mean, there's no magic. I literally am magic free. I mean, there's seriously nothing up my sleeves.
I think the first thing to do is find out what is it in this quirky character that the audience can relate to, that they can connect to and say, oh, I can identify with that because I see a little bit of it in myself, May never want to invite that character to the dinner table, but at least they see, oh yeah, I know what that's about.
On a television series, we often use the term family in describing the relationship of the cast and crew. In fact, during production, we spend more time with the people on the show than we do with our real families. There are long hours filming. We eat our meals together. The teenagers attend school with each other. And during moments of downtime, we talk and we laugh and we bond. However, while everyone on the team experiences this kinship, there are some very real family associations involved in Granite Flats, such as the Plummer family. John is our head writer, and Mom Maya and son Charlie are pivotal members of the cast. Here's a look into the Granite Flats family, both literally and figuratively.
John was really brought into the project first, and then Charlie. And I was here on set as Charlie's guardian, so I had the good fortune of being able to meet everybody and see how things worked and a real sense of the story and the place. And then I was lucky enough to be asked to audition, and even luckier to get the role. And so John and I have actually worked a good deal together, but where he was a director, which is sometimes a more challenging experience.
He's choosing nicer words than she might otherwise use.
But I love the characters he was helping to create, especially, you know, objectively speaking, Charlie's character is Timmy Sanders, because Charlie is not very much like Timmy Sanders. So I love that character so much. And I see a lot of our younger son, James, in that character. And he also loves Granite Flats, loves the story, and has high hopes that he will also be on the show at some point, creating characters. Also, he would like our dog to be in the show as well. So I think he's young, and we're trying to keep.
He's just turned 8 years old.
Yes. So we'll see, but he's happy.
There are scenes in this season, season 3, in which there are flashbacks. And I was contacted this past summer before we started production by the writer, John Plummer, who said, you know, we have some scenes that flash back to 1942, 1941. I said, and we're shooting in 1963, 64. I go, how am I going to do that? And he goes, well, you're not. We were thinking about your nephew to play your character as a younger man.
Hi, I'm Greg Naughton, a.k.a. Younger Whittison. My uncle is David Naughton, who plays Dr. Whittison. And I guess this summer when John Plummer, the writer, was writing all these episodes for season 3, he wanted to do these flashbacks to World War II that would sort of track Dr. Whittison at a different time.
I'm delighted that he's part of it, because this is a particularly fun experience. It's a warm show. Despite the intrigue that you people see in the actual shows, the making of the show is as good an experience, I think, as any actor should have. So I'm happy to share that with my nephew. So, 2 Dr. Whittisons in season 3, what kind of trouble could that be?
My experience on Granite Flats, it's really been a surprise to me because it's turned into this really important part of my life. I mean, it's been 3 years now. It's the first time I've done a TV show where I've been a regular, you know, a recurring character at least on it, and had this family to work with. I think the cast and the crew are so phenomenal. The production treats us so wonderfully. I mean, I've been treated just so wonderfully, and, you know, and I've still been able to do work back in LA, you know, both writing-wise and acting-wise.
I feel so grateful. I mean, I kind of feel guilty because I've got a really good job. I'm really lucky.
This has been one of the great jobs I've ever had. When you do a TV show in LA, you don't go out with everybody at night. You go home. You go home to your families. And for us, because we're all staying in the same hotel, every night we go, so where are we eating tonight? Been to Palette. Have you been to the Copper Onion? Let's go there. And we go there in a big group, and it's almost like doing theater again. You know, you're on the road, and you're in a new town, and it's fantastic.
I love the whole experience of Granite Flats. Coming to Utah, I've just absolutely fallen in love with this place. I've fallen in love with these people. It's an amazing cast and an amazing crew, and we all really became fast friends, and, you know, we actually hang out together when we're not working, and it's just a marvelous experience.
I've also really enjoyed working on this show. Like the people that I'm working with here have all kind of evolved into a close-knit group, and especially being away from home and all of us being on location here, that causes a lot more bonding to take place.
I really like working with all the other kids because they're really nice and I get along really well with them, and over the course of the show we've become really good friends, and it's really fun, and I get along with all of them, and they're really nice people, and I've, you know, created really great friendships, I think, with all of them.
The ensemble cast is really fun. Everyone's a family, and the crew is incredible. If you look season 1, 2, and 3, especially the kids, I mean, we've grown up so much, and I'm great friends with all the other actors, but specifically the kids.
Granite Flats has been such an amazing experience. It's been so crazy to be able to grow up with the cast and crew. You know, I started the show when I was 11 and now I'm almost 14. So it's been almost 3 years, and it's just been so amazing to, you know, be able to meet everyone and then see, and for them to be able to see how I've grown up and to kind of grow up alongside my fellow actors, and just, you know, it feels like such a family now, and I'm so blessed that I got to do this. I feel so lucky.
Many factors may endear an actor to a particular scene. It could be their performance, the emotion or dynamics of the piece. Perhaps the character's placed in a totally different set of circumstances than what's normal for the role. Or maybe it's because of who they're sharing the scene with. Whatever the reason, actors always have their favorite scene.
Working with Christopher Lloyd is pretty amazing, just because, you know, not a lot of, you know, young actors get to work with someone like that. And he's such an amazing actor, and he creates these great characters, and Professor Hargraves is one of them, so it's really been a delight working with him.
Christopher Lloyd is so funny. He's actually one of the funniest people I've ever worked with. I think he's amazing, you know, he's so inspiring to watch. You know, I've seen Taxi and, you know, all of his movies, and he's so great.
Just as calamity has a power to destroy, it has a power to unite.
I think one of my favorite scenes to shoot was early on, where Pastor Todd comes to visit me as I'm on death row and actually sort of aligning my own death, orchestrating my own death there.
Listen, Pastor, if you're here out of some sort of spiritual concern, let me stop you right now. I've never been to your church. I mean nothing personal by that. It's just that after my wife skipped out, I just haven't been feeling very pious.
I liked how Pastor Todd was trying to put Herschel in check, and that Herschel was still so angry and still just way out of bounds and in full denial from what his situation was and what the circumstances would be.
One of my favorite scenes from season 1 was with Peter Murnick. There's a fire and explosion at the base, and he and I have a scuffle.
Who's in there? Your corporal is gone. Get off of me. Stop it. That's enough, Sergeant. You want me to make it an order? I'll make it an order. Stand down. Who are you supposed to be? Lieutenant Frank Quincy.
We have a lot in common. We're both about the same age. We're both about the same size. I got to slam him into a truck. He's a fantastic actor. That just, for me, was a great day. I got out of the hospital, was able to do a little action.
I think we might have just shot my favorite scene. It is a scene, it's a flashback back to the 1950s, in which something happens between my brother and my brother's wife that we kind of mix it up. It's fun. It's fun to mix it up, physically.
In season 1, I believe, where it's the bike scene where it's kind of Madeline's chasing Arthur and we're going through the woods, and that was fun to shoot because we had to bike through the woods. Yeah, that'd probably be my favorite scene so far.
Basically, what's going on in the scene is they're talking about a plan of some sorts, and I walk over and I dump Timmy's lunch all over him.
Maybe we should have a vote. We should not have a vote.
Wow, Sanders, your boyfriend looks mad.
It's okay, Arthur.
We had to make sure that it looked good enough, so there was times where there wasn't enough corn on him, or if there wasn't enough meatloaf, or the meatloaf didn't fall right. It was so funny just to kind of watch. I'm really glad it wasn't me getting food dumped on me.
My favorite scene, I don't know if I've seen it yet, but I shot a scene with Christopher Lloyd last week. And it was a very quiet scene. It was a scene of reconciliation between me and him. And that I don't want to spoil it by saying exactly why we had to reconcile, but that's one of my favorite scenes.
Last season, we did a scene where me and my wife are giving a cesarean section to this Korean scientist because she's gone into labor, and that was very dramatic and scary and weird. And I, open a pocket knife and put some vodka on it to cut her open. It's like, yeah.
And I think probably my all-time favorite scene It might be when I tell Wallace that I want to adopt him.
We'll fix this wallpaper. We'll do it right this time, and this will be your room. Your real room until you finish high school and go off on your own.
The way it was written, it was very straightforward. It was very direct, and there weren't a whole lot of words, but there was a lot of space to just kind of be.
I want to adopt you, Wallace. For real. It's up to you, of course.
I don't know, I think it was probably connecting to Ethan as well, so.
When I first looked at turning Granite Flats into a television series, I wanted to do something different than what was currently on the air. I liked the idea of setting the story in the era in which I grew up. In many ways, it was an age of innocence, void of the bitterness and vulgarity of today. In the beginning, there was no way to know how this would be received. But as we begin our third season, Granite Flats continues to positively impact those associated with the show while enriching the television landscape.
Granite Flats is pretty quirky. It's a throwback.
One of the greatest things about this show is the art design. The art direction and the production design and the set dressing is amazing because everywhere you look, I'm a child of the 60s, and everywhere you look are period items as small as paper clips. The pens are period pens. So you look around the interior of this FBI truck, and it's all period surveillance equipment, period observation equipment. So, you know, sometimes, you know, we just sit in there playing around with all the great little items around us.
In essence, it has these values that are very American.
It's also nice to work on something that my children could watch, because a lot of things that you work for hire in Los Angeles are not entirely appropriate all the time. You do the best you can, but most of the stuff my kids, I have to say, you know, maybe don't watch this one, whatever. But this is, it feels good to work on something that your family can watch, you know.
We are so fortunate to be able to work here together. The nature of this business, you know, divides us a lot. We have to be away from each other a good amount of time. And it's really hard on us. So this is just a dream come true.
The very first time that I ever encountered a member of the public who asked me about Granite Flats was a total surprise. It was after the first season had aired, and I was in a major department store chain, and there's a, you know, rather diminutive, large black woman. She went, "Oh, I know you. I love it. I love it. It's great. You're really great on it." I'm thinking, okay, you know, what show are you talking about? And she went, "Granite Flats. It's the best show on TV." You know, so that like knocked me out. So it let me know that there's a large world out there of people who are watching the show.
Well, as I say, I love the role, and it's a very intelligent script. It's beautifully written, and a wonderful cast. So what more could an actor ask for?
Granite Flats was an experiment. It was an attempt to prove that we could create a scripted drama that would not only entertain, but also engage and enlighten viewers of all ages. As to whether we succeeded or not, I suppose you, the audience, will be the final judge. But if we did, it's because a vast team of creative professionals gave not only their skill and experience, but also their hearts to the process. On behalf of those people, I thank you for watching the grand experiment that is Granite Flats.